Hello, I'm Frank McSheen with Square Peg Consulting at the Whiteboard. I'm a supply chain cash guide, and these are the components of the business-to-business supply chain as I see it. And there are opportunities to generate more cash in every part of this process. Let me show you what I mean. Today we're going to focus on an aspect of the people and teams portion of our supply chain process, talking about the supply chain leadership roles and what are the requirements of those roles. And I've seen time and time again, companies, they tend to have a tendency to promote people based on what they've done in the past and not necessarily what the role is going to require that they're going to put them into next. Example is promoting the best operator to the supervisor. And you lose your best operator in some cases, and you might not create the best supervisor because they don't necessarily fit those. What made them good at being an operator doesn't necessarily make them good as a supervisor. So we're going to talk through the roles and what are the main requirements of these roles. I use a tool called the Predictive Index, which is a long-standing tool to help companies define the behavior traits required in a role, as well as assess the people to see what's the match or mismatch between the two. The first trait I would look for is a combination of task and people orientation. Kind of a balance between the two. The supply chain is a very task-oriented world. Lots of processes, lots of numbers, lots of activity, operations going on. So it's very task-oriented. But in order to be a leader, you also got to have a requisite number of people skills in order to be able to communicate, listen to people, engage people, involve them in problem solving and those types of things. Also understanding their situation a little bit better, knowing how to help, when to step in, when to back off, those kind of things. So we need kind of a balance between the two. If I had to choose, I would lean a little more heavily towards task orientation in this particular scope, but not giving up on a decent set of people skills to come with them. Next, and probably the most important, is proactivity. There's a constant requirement to be looking ahead, anticipating problems, looking at data, analyzing what trends are happening, as opposed to always looking behind to see what problems occurred, how do we fix the problems. So a lot of times people get promoted because they are good problem solvers, but not necessarily good problem preventers. In this case, we want somebody who's looking ahead at our customers and even our customers' customers to see what potential issues might be coming our way. Or likewise, back towards our suppliers and their suppliers to see what issues we might be experiencing coming up, as opposed to what we just experienced going backwards. And then lastly, I would say you want somebody who is detailed enough without being rigid, right? But they have an appreciation for process, for steps, for accuracy, for numbers being correct, that type of thing, without being a micromanager and hovering over their people and making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed all the time. They've got to give some trust and some delegation of responsibility to people, but they have to have a good enough appreciation for the details involved in operating a supply chain and to make sure that they keep up with that and they can identify when things are getting off track. So those are three of the key traits that I believe are required in these leadership roles in the supply chain and that you need to be looking for in your people before you put them in those leadership roles. Thank you.